There is a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment. And here, we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. And welcome to the show, everybody. We got a great show. We've had a great day today, haven't we, Rochelle?
We have. Today is all about impact, I think.
I think that's a really good way to put it. The positive impact that can come from, in some cases, a very negative event. And we are going to talk about that today because Todd Lingel, who is the CEO and the founder and the head bottle washer of Kares Foundation, is with us today, and we're going to have him tell his story. It is a difficult story. It is a horrific story, but it's got an extraordinary ending that is yet to be fully written. So, Todd, welcome to the show, and we're happy to have you here.
Well, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate you having me on, and Rochelle, nice to meet you as well. And I just thank you, Kevin, for what you do as well.
Well, I just do what the good Lord and my mind tells me to do, and one of the things that they tell me to do is to tell stories of people that are doing extraordinary work. And it doesn't always come from, I had a dream and I was going to do this and I was going to do that. Sometimes, Rochelle, isn't it true that sometimes things just kind of evolve the way that they're meant to?
Yes, and I'd love to follow that, Kevin, by saying that, Todd, you're a perfect example of something that we heard that we focused on a lot lately, which is the coward and the hero experience the same thing, but how they handle it is what makes the difference. And so I'd love for you to get into your story so we can find out what happened to you that was out of your control and what you decided to do with it.
Okay. All right. So, well, I will start. When I was 3 years old, my mom and my sister were killed by a drunk driver. And it was June 14th, 1975. It was the day before Father's Day. And my mom was taking my sister and my brother to my grandmother's house. My sister wanted to bake pie crust with my grandmother, and my brother had a 4-H meeting that was right across the road from my grandmother's. And so it was towards, like, I think late afternoon, early evening, and my mom took off. I stayed home with my dad. He had a horse he was breaking, so I stayed home to play, I guess. And they never showed up to my grandmother's house. And so my grandma was calling my dad just over and over because, of course, no cell phones back in 75. And so my dad finally heard the phone and answered it. And my grandma said, "Hey, they haven't shown up yet." And my dad goes, "Well, we'll get in the Jeep and we'll come that way and we'll see, maybe they had a flat tire." So my dad said we got in the Jeep and we drove toward my grandmother's house. About 3 to 4 miles out of town, we drove up on the wreck. And my dad saw that it was our car, and he got out, left me in the Jeep, and he started running toward the car. And one of the deputies there was a friend of his that saw him and tackled him basically in the middle of the highway and said, "Hey, Karen and Shelly are gone, but that my brother was on the way to the hospital and he needed us." And so that police officer took us, I guess, lights and sirens going. My dad said he left the Jeep there, and he said to this day he doesn't know how it got home. And so fast forward, after my mom and sister were laid to rest and everything, my grandmother would watch me while my dad was working, and she also watched the little girl of the police officer that drove us to the hospital. And I guess I was telling the little girl that her dad killed my mom and my sister, which was totally wrong. And so my dad said he had to take me to the junkyard and show me the pickup of the guy that killed my mom and sister. And then I stopped saying that to this little girl. And so, yeah, it was a difficult time. I mean, my dad tells me my uncle wanted to go find the guy and, put a beat down on him. And my dad's like, "No," he said, "they're gone. We can't do anything else. And we don't want you to do something to where, you're gone away from your family in prison, And so yeah, so that was the start of life for me at 3 years old. And my brother survived, and he's doing good. Um, so, but growing up, and interrupt me any time as I'm talking here. And growing up, I always felt like there was something wrong. I didn't know what that was. A feeling. I had no clue. And back in that day, kids, adults, whatever, didn't go to counseling. The old adage was "buck up, buttercup."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we didn't do anything like that. So it was that feeling. We just kind of didn't talk about it. We didn't talk about my mom, my sister, and I can't imagine what my dad went through and felt during that time. But as growing up, that feeling got stronger and stronger. I got into high school. My grandmother on my mom's side, we really didn't see a lot. My uncle that lived 15 minutes from us, we saw him maybe once every year, maybe a couple of years. And then I was a pretty good football player in high school. I was in the papers a lot, and so my uncle would come to some of my games, and got to know him a little bit more that way. But after high school, fast forward to my early 30s, and all of this came out, and I had to deal with it. And I went to counseling. Well, actually, I'll go back up. I was depressed. My doctor said, "Hey, why don't you go on some medication?" And of course, I fought it for probably 6 months, telling her, "No, no, no, I'm not going on any medication." And finally, I said, "Okay." And so I went on medication, which made me worse than better. And at one point, it was on Friday evening, I had a shotgun in my mouth, and I almost
Mm.
committed suicide. And I even to this day, I think about trying to think at that moment what my thought process was, and I really don't know where I was at, because I don't really think I was fully there.
Mhm.
And I grew up in a non-denominational Christian church my whole life, and I truly believe God grabbed me at that moment and said, "Don't," or "What are you doing?" kind of thing. And I like came to, I guess, is all I can describe it as. And I called the on-call doctor, because it was like 6 o'clock, I think, or so, 7 o'clock, something like that. And the on-call doctor happened to be my doctor. And I said, "Hey," I said, "this is what just happened." And I said, "I'm a little freaked out about it." And she goes, "Okay." She goes, "Be around people, and don't take any more meds, and be in my office Monday morning." And so went to her office, and I said, "You know what? I'm done with this medication." I said, "Totally done." And I said, "I want to go to a Christian counselor." I said, "I believe in God." I said, I want to go to the Christian counselor, and between the Christian counselor, God, and myself, we're going to figure out what in the heck this is." And because it had just that feeling gotten stronger and stronger. And so going to the counselor, that first probably year and a half, I actually was able to mourn my mom and sister's death, and I went through the stages of grief and everything, because I'd never ever had an opportunity to do that. And during those times, man, my emotions were up and down all over the place. I was angry. I was not a very nice person to be around. Let's say it that way, during that time, because of all the things I was going through. And through that process, after grieving, we figured out that the feeling I had had growing up was general anxiety and separation anxiety. And so as we put those together, it's like it made sense to me. It's like, okay, that's why I've been feeling this way. Because I'd go try to do things, and things would just get too overwhelming for me, and I just go the other way. And so probably another 2 years of counseling, I learned how to deal with the anxiety without medication. And unless God takes the anxiety away from me, I will have it the rest of my life, because it started when I was so young. And it still gets me today. There'll be a couple days in the year that it gets me, and it's like, you tip your hat, get in the car, take a drive, and relax. And so went through that, doing better. 2018 had a little bout of thyroid cancer, and good from that. So I've been through a lot of different things, and comes in to 3 years ago, in was it May of 22, I decided to actually start Kares Foundation. And I had spoke, I think, years ago, in our church. I helped out with youth group, and one of the kids asked me to speak at our driver's training class. So I spoke about it at driver's training class. I did a victims impact panel in Portland, Oregon, and some of that. So I just did a few things. but I never had a chance to actually do what we're doing now and start Cares Foundation. And so yeah, and I mean I could talk forever, so I'll keep talking unless you interrupt me.
Very good. I'm
Right.
wondering, before you move any further,
Yeah,
how did
yeah.
it come to fruition that you were able to make this actually possible?
The Cares Foundation itself,
Yes.
through a lot of prayers and just me saying, "Let's do it." And when I was part of a networking group, and there was an attorney in my networking group, and so I called him up and I said, "Hey," I said, "how much would you charge me to open up this Cares Foundation entity that I'd like to do?" And he goes, "Man," he said, "the firm I'm working with, they're gonna make me charge you $5,000 or $6,000." But he said, "I know a gal that has her own firm." He said, "You remember our last meeting?" And he kind of reminded me who she was. He goes, "Let me give her a call." So he called her, and he called me back in 15 minutes. I was like, I was laughing. He goes, "What are you laughing at?" I said, "Well, for one, I've never seen or heard an attorney call me back in 15 minutes and not charging me for it." And so, he goes off laughing about it. And he goes, "Hey, I talked to her and she will help you. And so here's her cell phone number, call her." So I called her up, and her name is Paloma Goggins at Nocturnal Legal. And she goes, "I will help you for $600." And I'm like, "Sold, let's do it." And
Mhm.
that's how Cares Foundation became an entity. And then we kind of went from there.
Yeah,
And
that's
it is a
awesome.
nonprofit organization that you've been operating since 2023,
2022. Yeah, we're a little
22.
over 3 years. Yeah.
And all of this thing, now keep in mind that your mom and your sister passed away at that point almost 50 years ago.
Yeah, it's 50 years ago this year.
And so it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was in the newspapers and all that kind of stuff. And your dad has clippings and all of that kind of stuff. Or does he?
No, oh well, for the other wreck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he didn't have that. I actually found out myself from the local newspaper down there. I searched it up, and yeah, um, yeah. So I got all that information. I found out who the drunk driver was. I've done some investigation on who he was and found out that he and my mom went to the same high school. And I think he would have been a senior when she would have been a freshman. So they may have known each other. um, so yeah, it's kind of crazy. And you know, I got to tell you another story because, like I told you, I grew up in a church, and for me, God has been showing me the direction in things. So when I got the entity open and Paloma helped me get it open, I wanted to start speaking in Idaho at the non-denominational church that my dad and stepmom were going to, and because Idaho is where I grew up and where they were killed, and we were talking with the minister, and I don't even remember how it all came about, but we figured out that the minister's wife's grandmother, so the minister's wife's grandmother was a first responder to my mom's wreck.
How did you
And at
find
that
that
time,
out?
we were just talking. She was a first responder in the county, so we just put two and two together. And my first question was, "Is she still alive?" And they're like, "Yeah, she's still alive." I'm like, "Well, can I call her?" It's like, "Yeah, absolutely." And she was 30 minutes from where I was at, and I was able to spend 2 hours with her. And so when I went to talk with her, her name's Donna, great lady. When I talked to her, I said, "Okay, I'm a little skeptical whether this is really my mom's," because at that point it was 47 years after the fact. And
Mhm.
and she goes, "Yes." She goes, "I worked with your uncle. He was a deputy coroner in a neighboring county." And she goes, "I knew your family." I'm like, "Oh." She goes, "Yeah." So that wreck was super impactful to me. And I said, "Well,
Mm.
do you remember things? Do you know things?" She goes, "Absolutely." She goes, "I can close my eyes and I can picture everything." And I said, "I'm glad you said that because I would like all the details." She goes,
Mm.
"Really? You want the details?" And I said, "Absolutely." I said, "The only word I can think of is closure. Is
Mm.
maybe you're going to tell me what you know, and maybe I'll get to know my mom and sister's last minute of life, couple minutes of life." And so she goes, "Okay." She goes, "Well, when I got on scene," she goes, "there was an older lady there that must have been trained for first aid through 4-H. She said she had gauze on, um, your brother, she goes, his arm was obviously broken. He was bleeding from the head, had gauze on. And she goes, the drunk driver was cut from the shoulder all the way to the groin, and he was wrapped up in gauze. And she goes, it was obvious that your mom and your sister had passed. And I said, okay. I said, so tell me more about the scene. She goes, well, I thought it was a Chevy pickup, but she was, I think my dad corrected me. It was a Ford pickup. And my mom was in a 66 Chevelle Super Sport. And when they hit driver to driver head on. And when they hit, it popped the hood up in my mom's car and drove the hood back through the windshield. And of course, kids back in 75, they didn't have car seats and everything. They stood up in the front seat. And the hood hit my sister in the forehead, and she died instantly. And she said it shoved my sister back in the seat like you were sitting. And then she goes, your mom was leaned over your sister like she was protecting her or giving her a hug. And I'm like, oh man. I said, you know what? I said, that makes perfect sense, because I said my sister's death certificate said she died instantly, and my mom's death certificate said she died moments after impact. So I really truly believe that she had enough life in her to see that my sister was gone, and that she really leaned over to give my sister a hug, and that's how she passed. And so she said, we knew had passed, and she goes, we put your brother in the ambulance, and she goes, the hardest thing for me to do is we had to put the drunk driver in the same ambulance with your brother. And she goes, there were so many times going to the hospital that I wanted to kick him out. And I said, I can't imagine how difficult that might be, And so that's what I got to learn from that scene, and her telling me that, man, just, I don't know if you say, gave me that somewhat closure, because now I knew exactly from what my dad had told me, and, if you say completed the story, I guess. I don't know a better way of saying it. So that was super impactful to me. And yeah, it was crazy. And my dad in 2012, actually before all this, he had brought out my mom's purse that he kept. So I have my mom's purse that she had with her when she died. My dad just cleaned it up, and everything's inside. It's crazy. I'll just sometimes, if I'm down or whatever, I'll open up my mom's purse and see her handwriting, because in 2012 was the first time I ever saw her handwriting that I remembered. And so yeah, it was kind of crazy. So it was crazy all about that. And while I was down there,
Todd, I know that you can talk nonstop for like hours, but that doesn't. But this is a conversation, and we need need to talk about the foundation and the work that you're doing. But before we do that, Rochelle, we need to take our first break. And so, Todd, we're going to be back in just 1 minute, and then Rochelle's got a question, and then we'll continue your story. Can we do that?
Sounds awesome.
Oh, he's as bad as I am, Rochelle.
I know. It's fine.
We'll be right back. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. In a dark room, a single candle was lit. That tiny flame chased away the shadows, filling the space with hope. Your courage, your kindness, and your light may seem small at times, but it can change someone's entire world. Never underestimate the power you already carry inside. Even the smallest flame can ignite a fire that transforms lives. You are listening to Positive Talk Radio, where stories of hope come alive. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. A sailor in a storm once battled waves so fierce they nearly sank his ship. He discovered storms, they don't last forever, but strong sailors do. Life will shake you, test you, and even try to break you. But if you hold steady and keep moving forward, the skies will clear, and when they do, you will see how powerful you have become. You are listening to Positive Talk Radio, where stories of hope come alive. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, and Rochelle is here, and we have got a great guest. His name is Todd Lingel, and he is the founder of Kares Foundation. It is a group, and we're going to get into what exactly it is that you guys are doing and how you are helping educate people in something that is really important. But Rochelle, do you have a question?
Yeah. I'd like to know, Todd, was it healing for you to know that as you were finding all this information so much later on in life, that you also weren't alone in it, and there were other people who kind of got to go through that with you and be in your corner, let's say? You just had more of a community of understanding of your life and your mom?
Yeah, absolutely. There was one woman that was huge for me. Her name's Jeanette, and from Portland area, and she lost her son. And I connected with her, and just being able to know that there's somebody else like what I kind of went through, except this was her son. So got a little bit of a look into what maybe my dad was going through, and so yeah, it was good all the way around for me to look into everything.
Well, and you had said also that you found who this guy was that had hit them. Did you ever get any sort of information or background on maybe what he was going through or what his life was like to maybe be able to forgive him a little bit?
I have forgiven him years ago, and I've been trying to know more. He actually passed away from alcohol poisoning, from my understanding, like when I was a junior in high school. And so
Wow.
I want to learn more about him because just like what you said, I don't know how his life started. It may have been something that he really was just kind of led right into his drinking and stuff. So,
Mm,
yeah, I do want to know more. I just haven't found that out yet.
yeah.
Was he arrested and did he do time for that whole thing?
He was arrested, and he got 2 weeks in jail, and
Uh-huh.
he was, yeah, 2 weeks in jail, and he was able to serve them on weekends, evenings or weekends. And I guess he had 6 months to do it, and he didn't do it in the first 6 months. They gave him another 6 months. And so, yeah, laws have changed a lot since then. But back then, they didn't do anything for drunk drivers.
But nowadays they would call that vehicular homicide
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. The person probably on 2 counts, they would probably get at least 15 years.
Yeah, and that's
and
prison,
deserve at
not
least
jail.
12. Yeah.
Yeah, that's prison. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing, and that by the way, added to the trauma that your dad went through, and that ultimately that you went through, because did you feel like there was no justice in any of that?
Oh yeah. As soon as I was old enough to really realize it, I wanted to know the guy's name because my brother and I think would have went and
Hmm.
had a little chat with him, and it wouldn't have been good. We would have ended up in jail. But then yeah. So I yeah, it was just those feelings, and I can still kind of remember when I remember realized the first time what it really was or who he really was, kind of thing. And I'm glad we didn't do that because that's not the right thing to do.
Yeah. And is your dad still with us today?
He is. Yep. He's actually maybe listening right now.
Well,
So hi,
hi,
Dad.
Dad.
Bobby. Yeah, that's
So
awesome. I love to
yeah,
know that he's still here and still supportive. And I love how you talk about being able to understand what he went through too, because he still had you and your brother, and
yeah,
he didn't lose sight in that either. And it seems to me like he did pretty well. So, and we have
yeah.
to shout out Samuel. I'm so glad that you get to be here with us, Todd, while we have Samuel. He is from Kenya. He's running a
Uh,
beautiful, beautiful community, feeding children and providing things that they don't have out there. He says, "Greetings from Kenya. This is my favorite show. God bless your brother Kevin and sister Rochelle. Thanks for recognizing my
awesome,
organization." And hello, Samuel. We love you. We support you. And thank you so much for being with us.
awesome.
Rochelle saw pictures of his group as he was feeding the children, and
Oh,
that is the cutest thing. They're all carrying their little bowls, but they all were. And in Kenya, it's not like here. It's
yeah,
way different and stuff. But
But they're
I
creating their own pure happiness out of it, Kevin. And
I
that's
know.
what's the bright side.
I know,
that's
and
cool.
and the reason that it's so important for us to talk to you, Todd, is that you are now, after all of this stuff, you are now have got Kares Foundation, which the mission of Kares Foundation is, I'm assuming, education to help others
Yes.
recognize that that while in and of itself having a beer after work is fine,
Yep.
or doing, but getting behind a lethal weapon while after you've been drinking is not an appropriate thing, because not only did it affect your life, but the guy who ended up dying of alcohol poisoning when you were in high school, one of the things was that he couldn't stop. He didn't get help,
Yep.
and and he probably didn't forgive himself at the same time.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. For sure. Yeah. And
And
that's
so tell us about Cares Foundation and the work that you're
okay.
doing, which is really, really, really cool work.
Okay.
Yeah. What's
Awesome.
the meaning?
Well, first Cares Foundation. My mom's name was Karen. That's where the Kare comes from, and my
Oh,
sister was Shelly. So that's Cares. That's how Cares came about. And
Perfect.
then the first responder telling me that, actually it's this way, telling me that how my mom died, the leg of the K that wraps around the other is significant of my mom giving my sister that hug when she died. Um, so that's our logo. But what we do is I go around and I talk to kids, and I'll go to schools. I'm trying to go to a lot of group homes here in the valley. There's around 140 group homes in the Phoenix area valley, and speaking to them. I say not to them, with them, and just telling them my story, letting them know that no matter what you go through in life, the hard things, you fight hard through it, and you're going to be great coming out of it. And I especially these kids in the group homes, I tell them, you're gonna make a choice in life: turn right and do something good, turn left and do something bad. And I said, all of us in life have that choice. And I said, unfortunately, you guys at a young age are at that point now to make that decision. I said, kids are still at home under their mom and dad's wings. They don't know what life's about yet. But I said, you guys at group home kids know. And so I really try to get that across to them, that, I know things are hard, but there's people there to help them and to get them through things. And so the speaking is one aspect we do. And I'll go all over the country. I tell people if I've got a sleeping bag and a floor, I'm good to go. So you know, grew up on the farm and dairy, and you can just hit the concrete if you need to. So that's one aspect we do. We have a camp that we want to put on this next summer called Kamp Kares. They're all with a K because of that significance of the K.
Sure.
And the Kamp Kares is going to be around 85 kids that have been affected by drugs and alcohol, or veterans kids that have been affected by suicide. And our theme is Survivor, like the TV show. And so we're going to have kids up there. We're going to have a great time. We're going to have a luau on the last night we're there together. And we're also going to have a little bit of information and getting to know the kids better. Like in the morning time, we'll take like a topic like anger, and we'll say, hey, this is what anger is. We'll really dive into what anger is. And then in the afternoon, we'll just have a group discussion with everybody, like, hey, what did you think about this morning? And just get to know them and talk through that. So it just helps give them some more tools. And that's going to be a week-long camp. And then once we're done with the camp, we'll come back in the valley and we'll get these kids together every quarter and check in with them, see how you're doing, that type of a thing. And so just giving them that support that they need. And we're hoping as we do that they'll go and help their peers in the community. So that's the second thing we do. The third thing we've got going right now is we're putting a book together. It's called Unseen Scars, Truths from the Scene and Beyond. And what we're doing is we're wanting to find 100 individuals like myself to have a story, either a first responder that has a story that impacted them, or someone that lost someone like myself, or if they were the offender, they had a DUI and hit somebody and they did prison time. Anybody that has that story that can be impactful for individuals, we want them to be a part of our book. And it's $200 donation to be a part of our book, and we're getting authors now, like I say, and it's just going to be this we put together, and it's going to be so impactful to be able to take this into. I want to take it into counties and ask them to make it part of their rehabilitation for people that convicted of DUI. and we're going to have a couple questions on the bottom of the book or bottom of each page that the author's done, and that they can write on and really reflect on a person's story. And so if anybody wants to go on and be a part of that, you can go to our website at caresttoday.org. And on the little, you'll see like a name there that says Books, Unseen Scars, and it flashes. Click on that and you go down and you can sign up.
And by the way, if you want to, you can donate more than $200
Absolutely.
because it goes to a nonprofit organization. It's all tax deductible
Yeah.
and stuff, and it goes for a really good cause. Todd Lingel is our guest, and Prashel, we need to take a break. Doggone it!
I know, man. This time is just moving today. It's Friday. But when we come back, Todd, I'd love to ask you just about experiences you've had since you've started this foundation.
Okay.
And we'll return in just a minute. Watch this. This is really cool what we're doing now.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
Here are some points to ponder from Positive Talk Radio. You know, some say leadership is about getting the work done, about pushing forward, no matter the cost. But what's the cost of a team with no purpose? What if a single act of support, a single moment of genuine grit could change everything? What if leadership was a catalyst? Because true leadership isn't about being in control. It's about empowering others to find their purpose. It's about leading with passion and igniting the fire in everyone around you, creating a culture of teamwork and common purpose. A true leader finds this culture by enthusiastic purpose and team development, making each team member feel empowered to create, improve, and execute their tasks with genuine passion and a strong belief in the company's mission and focus. In other words, lead with purpose. And welcome back to Positive Talk. You know, Michelle, I got to tell you, every time I play one of those and your picture comes up, I think we're live and stuff. How do you feel having your picture out all over the place like that?
It makes you feel a lot of things. I won't lie. I think it just depends on how I choose to look at it. You see lots of different expressions, shall I say? But that's me. And you know what? I think it's a part of me being courageous enough to tell my story as well and learn through this. I mean, I have impacts throughout the entire world, and it's amazing. And Todd, you probably feel that. So I'd like to know maybe what was your first experience after you started this CARES Foundation and you took a step back and said, oh my goodness, this is going to be so much more powerful than I really could have imagined.
Yeah, I think that time was probably a little over a year ago. I went to a church camp and I spoke at a church camp. And after I spoke, this young girl come to me. She goes, "Hey, could I have a minute of your time?" And so she said, "Thank you for your story." And she goes, "You being courageous has given me the courage to step up and get some help." And so uh, Emily is her name, and I got permission from her parent, her mom, and stuff. And she's actually on my website, has a little video on there. At that point, I knew that the story had. I mean, I've been told it had meaning and impact, but I hadn't seen it yet. From a kid. And when she said that to me, it's like, wow. I literally sat back like, okay, my whole goal was to make one child's impact, and I did.
Mhm.
And yeah, that was, I would say, is the point that I was like, okay, this is a little bit bigger than what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Well, I got news for you there, Bucko. It's going to be bigger than you have any idea because, you know, there are national organizations like Moms Against Drunk Driving and other ones and stuff. But this has a particular personal interest in it because your
Yeah.
story puts a face and a name and to because you hear about, and the statistics that I read on your website are really horrific. about how many people are dying in traffic accidents every day, and how many of those are involving drunk drivers, and stuff. And we as a society, we need to really work to fix those things. And so if you're at a bar, or if you're at a
Mm-hmm.
party, and one of your friends appears to have drank a little bit too much, and you can tell, don't let him drive. Make sure you get his car
Absolutely.
keys. Call him an Uber. I was telling Todd before the show that I broke my wrist 6 months ago, and I called an Uber to take me to the hospital because I needed a checkup, and it took 3 minutes for the Uber to get here. They're not that expensive. It's $20. How much is somebody's life worth? And so get the Uber, and they can do it really fast, and then you'll feel good. Well, you won't feel good because you're going to be hungover in the morning, but when you do recover from that, you're going to feel good that you did the right thing. And I wanted to ask you too, the kids home that you went to, are those kids that are in foster care and stuff like that?
Yeah, and they just live. It'd be a group of them that be in a home. Yeah, and they live there, and yeah, go to school. They do everything like everybody else does, except they have a case manager, each one of them, and so yeah, and sorry about that. And they yeah, just work with them, and um, so it's I guess that's where my kind of focus is, because a lot of those kids don't get um, a lot of help or seen. They kind of can be kind of slid under the covers, if you will, as far as
Yep.
just sliding through. Um, and yeah, and they have some very impactful stories. I mean, I had this 12-year-old. I tell him, that you turn right or turn left and stuff. And he goes, "What if you don't care?" I'm like, "Well, tell me more about that." And he's like, "Well, my parents don't care. They gave me up, and so why should I care?" And I said, "Well, I care." And I said, "I'm your friend from now on." And I said, "I know the people working here that love you and want you guys to have a better life." And I said, "They don't do this job for the money. They do it because they care about you." And so I said, "Let's take a little scenario here." I said, "You're 12 years old." I said, "Add 10 years to yourself." And he goes, "Okay." He said, I'm 22. I said, "Okay." I said, "You can be sitting right where I'm sitting, helping other kids that have gone through what you're going through." So I said, "Don't ever give up, because you need to care. You have a purpose, and we're here to help you as adults." And that just solidified everything that I'm doing. Um, Man, that was a hard day. That night I was like, phew, I didn't sleep very well because I kept thinking about that.
Yeah. Well,
Go ahead, Rochelle.
someday, yeah, someday he's gonna be that kid probably at that party like Kevin's talking about, and he's gonna recognize that and he's gonna stop them. And let me tell you one thing for everybody listening, even though it's not the best advice. If they don't want to get in an Uber, fight them, knock them out, make them go to sleep, make them stay wherever they're at, don't let them leave.
Absolutely.
And even being on their feet, and this isn't just for alcohol, even like so any prescription drugs are a perfect
Yep.
example even of that if it says not to drive, please don't do it. I will be so open and honest. I got a DUI for myself 2 years ago, and I was at that moment of life. It was just like, nothing really matters, and it's just here and it's there, and this is this and it's that. But when I got over that, and I looked back and thought, do you know how lucky I was to have only hurt myself?
Yep.
And the stories that I learned from that, I was able to move past that into somebody who was going to share that message and say, hey, I went through this and I got so lucky above all the odds of anything that could have happened, and really wasn't even injured myself. It hurt my ego really bad.
Killed your
But I
car.
got to,
Yep.
yeah, I lost myself. Everything that I
Yep.
had left that was like, well, I don't have anything. Oh, yes, I had things, more to lose. And just
Yep.
think about that, like if um, I know that if I would have been in a space around the right people that wouldn't have let me leave, it probably would have avoided a lot of that. And we've talked about that a lot today. So be able to be that person, make them mad, and try to figure out another way. and do what you can. And that doesn't mean let them leave with someone else who drank less.
Yeah.
I must say
Yep.
that as well.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
that comes up a lot. It's
Absolutely.
like, oh,
Yeah.
I feel fine and I haven't drank as much as him. You can't control another driver on the road. If you have alcohol in your system, whether it's your fault or not, you will be paying the consequence for that. So, is there a moment where you kind of experienced that with somebody else who's come into your program, or maybe someone who wanted to work with you that had an experience where they were the victim and now they're able to help out with your organization?
Yes, actually, a friend of mine, and he's kind of a mentor now. I won't mention his name because I didn't talk to him about this before, but he actually was a drunk driver, and he hit actually a neighbor that's down the road a little ways, and she got hurt, went to the hospital. He got arrested, and she, in the court, told the judge that she didn't want him doing any jail time, and so the judge gave him, I think it was just a restitution and then for community service. And so,
Mhm.
and he says, he got lucky and he didn't realize he was only like 4 or 5 miles from home, didn't realize he'd had too much to drink.
Yep.
And that's the thing. You don't realize it. And so if you are going to drink anywhere, just either Uber it or have a designated driver there, and that's the same thing. Like you made a good point, Rochelle. Pills too. It's impaired driving. It's not drinking and driving as well. It's impaired driving, and
Anything.
that's what our book is too. Is not just drinking and driving. It's anything that you're impaired on. It's marijuana use. It's a lot of different things that people are doing that are impaired, um, and they just aren't where they should be driving a vehicle. And like Kevin, like you said, it's a deadly vehicle. It's a deadly thing that you're putting your hands on.
Even an ATV. You could kill yourself on an ATV over 2 beers. So don't think you're
Yep.
invincible. I
Well,
did.
in
Yep.
the one other thing that I would like to mention, because it is as insidious as drinking or using drugs. If you're driving, put your cell phone in the glove compartment and leave it there, because you can
Yep.
always answer the phone afterwards unless you answer it while you're driving and lose control and hit somebody and you hurt yourself. It's not that friggin'
Uh,
important. Put it
Yep.
down.
Absolutely. And not only do we talk about when I go to speak to kids, I talk about distracted driving, like you just mentioned, and then I talk about social media awareness, the kids not knowing who they're talking to on the other end of their cell phone, and then of course my story and such. And I've got a story for each one of those. Some good friends of mine, he was driving too fast, texting, and ran in the back of a truck and decapitated himself and his wife, killed them instantly, and their what almost 14-year-old daughter was in the back, and she survived. Um,
And she saw
you
all
know
that.
this, and she's doing okay. She's doing pretty good. And that was like almost 10 years ago now. Um, and then for the social media awareness, kids have no clue who they're talking to on their cell phone, and they
Mhm.
want to meet up with somebody. A buddy of mine got a nanny and to help out with family with kids, and she was taking pictures of the kids and sending them to a guy uh, through the just texting or whatever through the computer, and his daughter caught her and got my buddy involved and got the police involved, and he was actually in the military, and they caught him. He's doing 30 years, and the young gal, for her part, she got, I think it was 11 years for her part. But before she gave herself up, the family fled to Mexico, and they're in Mexico as we speak, and she's never turned herself in. And so when they do eventually catch her, she'll be doing 30 years probably as well. So
Yeah.
I tell these young
Well,
kids, it's just not worth it.
Yep. And I just
before
have
we
to
take
say
our
this,
oh, go ahead.
please, Kevin, just one more thing. I know we've shot out so many. We're like, know this and know this. Just one last thing. If you are a friend of someone who's supposed to be driving you home, you don't have money, you don't have a designated driver, and you don't want to be out in the dark, do anything in your power to find a cell phone with a number of someone you trust. Do not be afraid, call them. I'm going to tell you it is because they would rather you wake them up and make them drive however far out of their way to come and take care of your life than to wake up the next morning and know that you're not there. I just felt that I needed to say that. I've lost a lot of people that way.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rochelle. That's really important. And the other thing that, Todd, I wanted to mention is that, a lot of kids in foster care and in group homes, they don't particularly feel loved, even though they've got people looking out after them. And I
Yep.
think it's awesome that you're going to talk to these homes. And I would encourage anybody with a positive story to tell to reach out to these homes because they want people to come talk, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. They love that. And I know you want to take a break here. Can I throw something out there that I want to try to do?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
I want to somehow get a hold of Jelly Roll, and I want him to come to Phoenix, and I want him to do a concert for just the group home kids and all their workers. So if anybody has contacted Jelly Roll, get it out there, please.
Yeah.
Well, the
I
first thing that
actually
I
know
have to
Post Malone, and I might be able to make that possible for you. So we'll
Wow.
have be in
Okay.
touch about that. Yeah.
Okay.
first thing that I got to know is who in the heck is Jelly Roll? We'll be right back. The strength of staying kind from your friends at Positive Talk Radio. Kindness is not weakness. It takes real strength to stay kind in a world that often rewards anger, ego, and control. Being kind means choosing to act from your values, not your wounds. It means showing grace even when no one's watching. But kindness doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean letting people take advantage of your time, your energy, or your peace. You can be kind and still say no. You have a soft heart with firm boundaries. The strongest people I know are the ones who choose compassion without losing themselves. They've been hurt. They've been tested. And still, they choose to love and lead and to lift others anyway. Kindness is not about pleasing everybody. It's about honoring who you are and how you treat others, even when it's hard. So stay kind, stay human, and stay strong. And always remember this, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Rochelle. She's dancing right there. And my name is Kevin, and I'm over here just sitting here passively. And we're talking with Todd Lingel. He is in charge of CARES Foundation, which was founded due to a horrific accident that happened in 1975. And I'm glad that you're doing the work that you're doing. You're one of those kind people with strong boundaries, and you take care of other people, and you think in terms of being kind to other people. Would I be correct in that, sir?
Yeah, you be kind. Yeah, that's correct. That's I'm guilty as charged.
And and that's a good thing to be found guilty of, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Rochelle?
Yeah.
Yeah, Todd, you've probably learned that what you give out comes back tenfolds. How is there a situation where you've realized that you've been able to help? I want to say this too. When you realized that you would help that one child, that was the start of the domino effect. I believe me and Kevin used to say that if we could just impact one person,
Yeah.
really all it takes is that one person because there's that domino effect. But I'd love to hear if there was ever a moment where you realized that you had been able to show these kids more than just what was within, and what they put out they could reciprocate in the same way, and maybe how it just helped their day-to-day life, and if they've been able to help other kids along the way,
Well, I spoke to a
or
school
adults.
in Oregon. Yeah. Yeah, I spoke to a school in Oregon, and um, one question I asked the school was, "When was the last time you told a teacher thank you?" And they kind of looked at me like, never." And I'm like, again, they don't do this for the fun of it. They're doing it to help you. And I tell these kids, you can do anything you want to as long as you put your mind to it. And then went through the whole thing. And I have the drunk goggles where kids can put on and walk the line and do those kind of things that we do as well. And not too long after that, they lost some students in a wreck. And one of my friends actually is one of the teachers there. And she said that made an impact for them. And so I think at that point was when I could see that, hey, not just my story, but just the overall speaking and letting kids and people know, adults know that there's other people there that care. That was like, okay, this can go bigger than just drinking and driving or impaired driving. Um, it can go into lots of things in different areas in your life, and hardship, going through cancer or something like that. It's a hard thing that you can know that you can fight through that. And like I was telling Kevin earlier, that you go through that thing, but you can be stronger coming out, and you can help others that are going through that or going to be going through that. And so, yeah, I think every day I learn something new um, from talking to people.
Yeah, 100%.
Welcome to life, young man. You will continue to learn every single
Yeah,
day for the rest of your life. And because you are building a platform that you can give back to people, you can then take those experiences that you are learning on a day-to-day basis and give them the benefit of your wise thoughts and what you say. So it's important.
yeah,
It really is important.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
The impact that you're having is, it started with just you. And I think that's what's insane. In 1975, at 3 years old,
Yeah,
you had something happen to you that impacted you for the rest of your life. And yeah, there was a lot of work that you had to figure out and put into that, especially because half of the information you wanted to know was pretty much unfindable unless you were able to speak to somebody. And that also comes into it, is you're creating a community of people who are not alone. They're in it
yeah,
together. They don't just have Todd, and they don't just have themselves. They also have each other. That impact only started with you. And I mean, I hope that even if you're not here someday, there is somebody who's going to be like, nope, we need to keep this going. And this needs to be um, more than in just Idaho.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And I'll go, well, like I said, wherever. And with this book and stuff that we're doing, that's kind of what our idea is, to create that family. And we're gonna call it, I believe, Cares Compassion, and to where we have a community of the people that are in the book, but other people, to where we can go on and we can talk, and anybody's in need of something, we can help them out, because that's kind of where I want to go as well, is
Yeah.
a community that helps each other. And we need to get back to that. How many times have you gone next door, or your neighbor, or you go next door to meet your neighbor and they're like, yeah, whatever, see you later. They don't want to know you.
Yeah.
And we need to get back to the day where you could knock on the door if you needed something, and your neighbor had that cup of sugar that they're no problem they're going to give you,
Yeah.
that type of thing. And
Yeah.
we just need to get back to that.
Yeah. Do you have anything, just out of curiosity? What if an adult had come to you and said, "Hey, I'm needing help, Todd, and I've got kids. I know that my problem is affecting, and I don't know what to do about my situation. I don't want to lose my kids, and I need to get better." Are you available to help them as well?
Absolutely, I can find them resources, for sure. And I've actually, when I go speak, I give every person I speak to my personal cell phone number. And I said, I don't care if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock, you call me, I'll find ways to help you. And I've actually had two individuals that were recovering alcoholics that chose to drink that night, and they called me. And I
Mm.
was able to get them in touch. They didn't want to call their sponsor, but I was able to get them in touch with their sponsor. And I've actually been attending an AA meeting off and on. And I've asked these gentlemen if I could learn from them, because I don't know that experience of it. And so they've been so gracious to allow me to be there and learn from them. And I'll tell you what, they're probably the strongest, courageous men I've ever met in my life.
There's
Yeah.
some really, really cool people that are working, and they were always cool. They just had to happen to have a problem with a particular thing, and now they're dealing with it and they're moving
Made
on
a
with it. I did
mistake.
want to say this to you, young man. Every multi-million-dollar organization or million-person organization started with a great idea, an experience, and one guy. There's a gal that her name is Michelle Hernandez, and she's in
Mm.
California. And one day she said goodbye to her husband. He went on a bike ride, and she gets a call 5 minutes later that He's been hit by a car. She goes to the scene of the accident. She gets in the ambulance with him. He dies on the way to the hospital. That was 15 years ago. She has now established the Widows Group, which is a national organization for widow and widowers to get together to help each other get through that tough time. And she's got workshops, and she is so busy she can't even come on the show anymore. So
Yeah.
that is where you're headed. And congratulations. And I can only implore you, please don't quit.
Thank you. I won't quit. It's in my blood, and I get excited every time I talk. Like I was talking earlier, I can talk for days, about it because I'm passionate about it.
As well, you
Yeah.
should
Well, and
be.
Todd,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
yeah, what you're doing is just so much more important also because it's teaching people that when you make a mistake, you're not defined by that. But it's also
Absolutely.
teaching people on the other hand of it to forgive. Because
Yeah.
I could tell you 100%. I don't know if I could trust myself if somebody happened to have made a mistake like that and hurt one of my family members and what that would take in me to be able to forgive them. So that part of it that you're taking on, Kevin, don't you just think that's like the whole point?
Really is. And it
Yeah.
really is. And
Thank you.
we're all human and we all make mistakes. And
Yep.
especially when you're younger, you think that you cannot be hurt, that you're invincible, that, oh no, I'm fine. And I'll be honest with you, when I was younger, I drove when and had drank too much. Thank God nothing
Yep.
ever happened. But
Yep.
you know, your education and learning about this stuff can be so helpful to kids so that they can make better decisions. Because I was pretty stupid when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I have to add to that
Yep.
too because I've heard one thing I learned you probably experienced when you did the victim impact panel. One thing that they tell you is a lot of these people say, well, that hasn't happened to me yet. That word is
Yeah.
so dangerous and can be so detrimental. Don't let it happen yet until it does.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is proving that. It's like, hey, you may have this going on and maybe there's nothing that has happened yet. But I mean, you're a part of this world and you can't control pretty much
Yeah.
anything. So you being able to work with them, especially with these kids that are impacting probably other people in their school and starting to build a little more courage and confidence within themselves and finding more friends and maybe even finding a best friend in that group home and realizing, hey, I'm not in this alone. And each other's stories matter 100%. So thank you for being able to not only share your story and be so vulnerable and open and forgiving in this process that you've gone through, but to continue to teach that on through our generation. The more we talk about it, Kevin, I have to tell you, I'm actually a little bit excited to see where this next generation or two puts the world into perspective. Because I think we're starting to change it more than we think.
I hope so, because I tell you, us older folks have screwed it up enough that the kids have got no choice. They got to
Yay!
fix it what we messed
Hey,
up. Um,
hey, speak for
I,
yourself for the older group.
well, I did the math, and you are at least 20 years within shouting distance of where I am. But but Todd, I want to thank you so much. We have run out of time, and
You're welcome.
give us your information one more time so that people can donate to the organization. And also, if you want to be an author, I know how. Todd, tell them how.
All right. Our website is www.carestoday.org, and that's a cares with a K. And go online there. You can hit the donate button to donate us to general donations. And then there's a button that's flashing that says Book Unseen Scars. Click on that, and you can get right there as an author, or you can donate for people that may not have the donation to become an author.
Very good.
And I want to thank you again for being here, young man. Keep doing what you're doing and never quit.
Yep.
Thank you. I
We're
appreciate
on
you
your
guys.
side. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We'll be back again.
Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.